Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Alex and I make travel, book and lifestyle content, so welcome in. I am so excited to share my thoughts on my August TBR list and everything I read in August. If you did watch my August TBR video about all the books I wanted to read, you will see which ones I actually managed to get through and finish in this video right now. So if you don't want to get spoiled from that, go back and watch my August TBR video and then head straight into this one. I'm very excited to do the breakdown on all of the books I read. So this is a spoiler-free video, so don't worry about getting any spoilers about the books I'm going to mention. I won't be spoiling anything, I promise. Let's jump straight into the first book of the month, which is my fastest read and my book club read of the month. That is Starling House. This one is kind of like a mystery slash fantasy slash storytelling, like narrative kind of book. We're kind of finding out the story as the story progresses, if you see what I mean. It's kind of hard to explain it, but it's a very particular writing style that I didn't think I would love when I first got into the book, but I ended up really loving. So I can't really pinpoint exactly what it is about this book that makes it a really enjoyable read for me. Like, I really enjoyed this. It's in all the small ways, I think, that I enjoyed this story. It's not like some big fancy like theme or plot line that was like gripping me and that I really like wanted to stick to. But it was all of the small ways, like the writing style, like the characters, like there's nothing about this whole book that really overtly screams at me that this is a 4.5 star read. I'm tripping over my words today. A 4.5 star read. Like, there's nothing that really jumps out and screams at me and says this is a 4.5 star read, other than all of the small ways in which it just like added up and added up and added up that meant I didn't want to put this book down. Like, I read this book in under 3 days. If we're kind of talking hours, I probably read it in 2 days. And every time after like the first day, because I think I started it on literally the 1st of August. I think I started on the 1st in the evening, so I only had like a few hours to read, and then I picked it up again on the 2nd and then finished it on the 3rd, so really under 3 days. And yeah, every time I had to put the book down, because I was reading this book on like a weekend. I'm trying to read this many books on a weekend kind of thing, so if I can insert the footage from that, I will insert it here, because I'm not sure it's going to fit in anywhere else in my videos upcoming. So we might have a quick diversion, little change of screen to that part of the video. Let me quickly update you on the rest of the weekend. So Friday, I came to my boyfriend's house. I'm here now, we're here for the rest of the weekend. I picked up Starling House, which is the book that we're reading this weekend, that we have already finished. Spoiler. I picked it up Thursday evening. Yeah, I bought it on my Kindle Thursday evening and picked it up. Sorry. I bought it Wednesday evening, picked it up for the first time Thursday afternoon working, like in between work on my break, and I read for about 2 hours. Ended up reading like the first 13%. I always look at percentages on my Kindle because it helps me, like that one number I can keep track of when I'm like relaying it back to you. So I read up to about 13% of Starling House on Thursday on my lunch break. That was good. I was a bit distracted. I always feel like I'm really distracted in like the first 20% of any book because I'm not that emotionally connected yet. But as soon as I have that like click over point where I am connected, it's games. I am reading until the wheels fall off, basically. So I read up to 13% on Thursday. I then had an early night's sleep, so I just, yeah, didn't read any more Thursday. Friday afternoon when I got here to Sam's, in the evening, I picked it up around 8 PM and I read for like 4, maybe I picked it up at like 7 PM. I read it for about 4 or 5 hours and then I ended up at 61% of the book. So I finished last night at 61%. I woke up this morning around 8 and read for an hour and a half. That took me to about 75%, I think. yeah. And then this afternoon, once we went for breakfast at Spoons, nice, and we went to pick up some stuff for our wine and cheese night tonight, because we're having wine and cheese and watching the sports. So I picked all of that up, came back, jumped back into bed because my happy place reading is laid flat in a bed, picked up my Kindle again, and I got the rest of the book done. So at about 2 o'clock, yeah, about 2 o'clock, I finished Starling House. So in about 12-ish hours, maybe less, maybe like 10 hours, I finished Starling House completely. I don't want to give any spoilers because this is not a spoiler reading vlog. I very much enjoyed this book. It's different to any genre I've previously read in the last few years. I don't really read whatever you'd really call this. It's like fantasy, but not really, but it is. Mystery. I don't really know how you would describe this specific genre, and I feel like I need to maybe watch a few people's reviews of the book to like have the terminology to discuss it. But essentially we follow a girl named Opal, and she is basically working out her place in the world, taking care of her brother and living in this shit creek town. And we just follow her story basically. But there's like some spooky, creaky twists and turns throughout the book, and it revolves around Starling House. I hope that's no spoilers because the book is literally called Starling House. But I really don't want to say any more because I feel like I will accidentally spoil things. I really enjoy Opal's character. I really enjoy her little brother. I really enjoy the other characters in the book, and like how the relationships come to be is like super interesting to me. So I really enjoy that part of it. Yeah, overall I really enjoyed Starling House. I got it done in like 10 hours across a couple of days. I don't know that I could give a better review than that without spoiling it. So it's 4.5 star from me. You're going to hear more of my thoughts in August reading wrap up, but that obviously won't be until the end of the month. I don't really know when you're going to see this video by the time I edit it, but yeah, I really enjoyed Starling House. I have read it for book club. This is book club's book, and I wanted to get it done first so that I knew it was like I had no excuses when I turned up to book club and hadn't read it. I wanted to make sure I'd read all of it and had my comprehensive review. This is actually the first book I've fully annotated start to finish, so I'm really proud of that as well, because now when I do my reading wrap up and everything, I can just go back through the book and see what my thoughts are because I have them annotated. And I love creating theories around books, so now that I've annotated it, I've had my theories come up as I'm reading, so I can see at which points in the book I thought of which theories and like where my guesses were, whether they were right or whether they were wrong. So I'm going to go back when I do my reading wrap up and go through some of my thoughts and feelings in my annotations. And yeah, I'm just really excited about Starling House. I think it was a really good book. I can see why Reese Witherspoon, I think I say her name wrong, maybe it's Witherspoon. I think I say Weatherspoon as in like Weatherspoons in the UK. Reese Witherspoon, it was her book club pick for this month maybe. I think that was on like the title on Amazon, so that also might be why it was completely sold out everywhere I tried to buy it in a paperback. I went to like 4 or 5 different bookstores, including 2 independent bookstores, and no one had it. So maybe that's why. Maybe it's not in paperback form in the UK yet. I don't really know how old this book is. Maybe it's not that old considering it's on like a book club pick. But yeah, very much enjoyed. 4.5 star from me right now. We'll see how I feel at the end of the month when I read all of the books and see if it stays at 4.5 star. But right now, having just finished the book an hour ago, with the amount of enjoyment I got out of it and the length of time it took me to read, it shows that I was hooked, like claws in, hooked, ready to read this whole time. So yeah, I really enjoyed Starling House. It's really making me fall in love with like shorter books again. I feel like I've read so many long books. Actually, I don't even really know how long Starling House was. It could have been short and I could have just read it quick, but shorter, like 300 pages books rather than 600 page books I've been reading recently is really making me love that, because I was actually able to pick up and put down a book within 3 days, which is chef's kiss, because my reading list for 2024 so far has been abysmal. This is like my 15th book of the year or something, because I've just read these mammoth novels and then had like a week or 2 gap of not reading anything. So that is my thoughts on Starling House so far. It should be a very good reading weekend. I'm about to pick up Once Upon a Broken Heart once I get my work done, but I thought if I pick up another book right now, there's no way I'm getting my work done today. So gonna do some work, potentially pick up the book and then do the cheese board, or we'll do the cheese board then pick up the book and like relax with a glass of wine. While I was reading, I ended up having an idea. This is definitely not any kind of like new revolutionary idea, but I thought I'd make a booktube like calendar slash library of all the books I read as I make videos. So if you want to see like what my thoughts on a book after like a few months, it's going to be kind of hard to remember or like tell which books I'm reading and which thing. So I thought if I make like a library that I can put in my descriptions, so then you just have to search the library of what I've read, then find the link for the video, and then I can timestamp it either in the video or in this like calendar tracker thing, so you can see exactly where and when I'm talking about that book. I feel like that's a good idea. Not that I've ever seen it before, but it's definitely not a new thing. Like for sure someone has been much smarter than me, much quicker and thought to do this for themselves. But yeah, that is what I'm doing right now. So I'm just gonna fill out just a couple of them. I'm not gonna make it really detailed. It's literally just gonna be book name, author name, the book, the type of video it's in, like so whether it's a review video or just a vlog or like a TBR, whatever. I'll have it like on a category type like that, so you can see what kind of video it is, the date that it was posted, and then the link to watch it. Maybe timestamps, maybe not, depends how much effort that actually does take, because right now on this Sunday afternoon when I'm very tired, it's not going to be today. But I thought, oh, that's quite a good idea, because then I don't have to keep track either. I can just come look in here and see like when I read something and when I filmed for it. I thought that's a pretty good idea. Anyway, I didn't need to sit on here and do every single one with you, but I thought, yeah, that was a pretty good idea. So I'm just making a little calendar now. I can just keep filling it out as I make videos. And I feel like that's really useful for not just me, because then you can also just search the name of the book in the database and find it immediately. Beautiful, or at least I think so. And I can just use it as a shareable document so everyone can go in and have a look. I'm very proud of myself, you know, top points for me. But I have cracked the first few pages of Once Upon a Broken Heart. I am literally like, yeah, 5% in. I'm on page 17. Yeah, 5% in, page 17. It says I've got 7 hours left of reading, which is actually really nice, because honestly I could probably finish this book tonight if I really got a shift on and like continued reading at a pace. I could probably finish this book in one day, which is honestly insane to me. I never really think how fast I read until I do it in like a stint of reading a book in a day. But I don't actually know how long Once Upon a Broken Heart is, like book length. It's so hard to tell when you're on Kindle, because I just never, like, word counts, page numbers, they never really stick out to me when I'm like looking at a book on my Kindle. Like, whereas when you have a physical copy, you can just see what the book, how big the book is, how long it's going to take you to read, like the page font. But yeah, I'm a couple pages in. We have met our main girl, Evangeline, and we are in a church, but I'm already getting like Alice in Wonderland kind of vibes, because I feel like this is a really bad angle, but this is what we're getting. It's like Alice in Wonderland kind of vibes, because already the bells are kind of talking, and the doors are kind of talking, or at least like the doors are kind of conscious in the way that we're being told about them in the story in like the first 17 pages. So it's giving me like Alice in Wonderland vibes of where like inanimate objects are animate, and if not human and feeling, they are semi-conscious or like have thoughts or whatever. So it's giving very much like fairy tale vibes, but I'm not really sure of how the world is going to be built yet. It definitely from the map looks like it's castles and very much fairy tale. You can honestly see how much of a non-blurb and like investment reader I am before I actually start a book. I just end up picking up a book that everyone says is good and just start reading it without any idea what's actually going on inside the story. But yeah, it's giving Alice in Wonderland vibes. I'm enjoying it for the first like 15-20 pages so far. I'm really hoping she's not going to be a whiny main character. From the people I love watching book reviews of, their review of Once Upon a Broken Heart, I don't think she can be whiny. So that's good. I'm already getting like strange vibes from Jax, the Prince of Hearts. They have prefaced this with the Fates aren't amazing beings. They're not like top of the line. You definitely want to pray to these people. It's like, do with the information what you wish. You can if you'd like, but it's not going to be the best thing for you. They're probably going to hurt you. They're probably going to harm you. It's just not the greatest idea to try and put your fate in their hands. Interesting. I'm enjoying it so far. So I'm going to keep reading this. I am going to finish the first like little section of that content calendar, but it is just like going to be a forever work in progress. So like I'm in no rush on this Sunday evening to get it done or perfected, and it probably won't even be out. Actually, yeah, it probably will be out by the time I post this video, because it's not that deep. It's just like a little catalogue. But yeah, back to the review. This book I just didn't want to put down. Every time I had to put it down, I immediately wanted to pick it back up. I wanted to know what's happening next. And it wasn't for anything that was really profound. It was just such an enjoyable read for me. Like, I just really wanted to know what was happening. And I wanted to know the rest of the stories from all of the perspectives that it was going to be told in. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Starling House was a 4.5 star read from me, and I really enjoyed it. So that is my quick summary on Starling House. I don't want to give too much context to this book because I feel like you can really easily spoil it if you start talking about the mystery elements or the fantasy elements, and I think it's something you need to find out as you read. But if you're anything like me and you're happy to just go on someone's recommendation with no other thoughts or feelings about it, Starling House will probably be a bit of a book that's up your street. So on to my surprising read of the month. This book in August is kind of two books. They are part of a trilogy, so I thought I'd put them together because I kind of read them back to back. Once Upon a Broken Heart and A Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. These books really, really surprised me. I really knew nothing going into them. Most of the time I read books, I know nothing going into them. I just go off recommendations and hype and things I've seen on BookTok, things like that. So I went into these books with zero understanding of how the books were even written, the plot lines, the genre, like literally no idea. I just saw the storyline, not the storyline, I saw the story title, Once Upon a Broken Heart / Ballad of Never After, and I said, let's go. So it really was off a recommendation of one of my favourite booktubers, because I think this series is one of her favourite series of all time. So that was very much great praise for this series. So I was really like, okay, let me pick it up. It's on offer on Kindle right now. We're doing it. So that was part of the reason why I chose to put it in my August TBR, but also because it has been one I've wanted to read for a while. So we finally got into it, and I was so surprised by the narrative and the world that Stephanie was building. It's like a fairy tale style story, except it's like not based on any fairy tales we know. So it's all fairy tales within the world, if you see what I mean. So the characters and the world that we're in have their own fairy tales, and we follow kind of like some storylines similar to that. So it's really like a fairy tale style story. I don't want to give like spoilers. This is so hard to describe them, but it's just super whimsical, really fun, it has like a main character that's quite smart but sometimes makes dumb decisions, and like she can sometimes be a bit of an idiot. That is really how I describe her, but she's like super smart otherwise. We just follow what happens in her storyline and with her characters surrounding her. So it was quite fast paced, but it still had this ability to keep you up to date with all of the characters and their backstories and the context with like that you needed to know to carry on to the next kind of fast paced plot point. I think it is a character driven story, but the plot line and this like this fairy tale style story that we're following is really well developed. Like I don't need to know too much context, I don't need to know too much background, I don't need to know too much about the world to understand the general premise of it. And I think Stephanie Garber does a really great job of giving us enough of what we need, keeping it fast paced and not really bogged down in the details, so that we can traverse like this story quite quickly. So it's not kind of all like based in one part of a month in the land, if you know what I mean, because some books can really be quite bogged down in like the day-to-day details or like the month-to-month details. I really don't know how long this book is. Well, I guess 2 books, Once Upon a Broken Heart and Ballad of Never After. I don't really actually know the timeline of these stories, but it's like fast-paced enough that it feels like a stretch of time is happening, but we're not like having a million things happen in 4 days, and we're not having like 3 things happen over 3 months, if you see what I mean. It's like a silly amount of fun mixed in with like some seriousness and some mystery and like some things that need solving, that it keeps my attention really well. And I think the way Stephanie set her world up, we have a lot of knowledge, but we're also able to keep it moving. And we're like still really invested into the plot line as well as the characters, as well as like, I don't know what's coming next. It's really hard to guess and predict what's coming next because it's such a strange world. Strange in the sense that it's whimsical and fun. Like you never really know what's coming around the corner or what's going to happen next with the characters, and I think that's really fun because I'm trying to predict and I'm trying to guess what's happening next because I love doing that with stories and seeing if I'm right, but I'm never right. Essentially I never really know what's actually going to happen next. If you want a book where you want to have fun and try and predict the mysteries and what's happening next and where the character is going or what they're doing, this is a really great book for that. If you want to be wrong, like if you don't want to actually have your guesses on the point, this is a great book for that. So I'm really excited from saying all that A Curse for True Love is in my September TBR. You're going to get the full list very shortly. And I'm very excited to carry on in Stephanie Garber's world and in the worlds, because I think I've been updated by one of my friends. I think Caraval is part of this world, and we didn't get to Caraval in August, which was one of the aims. However, we are going to get to it in September, so stick around for the September TBR video. It's coming your way. Now we are going to talk about my favourite book of the month, which was Realm Breaker by Victoria Aveyard. I loved this book. Don't get me wrong, this wasn't the easiest read of the month. It was quite a complex read. It required a lot of focus and attention, but I loved this book. I love Victoria's writing style. I love the way she builds her worlds. I love her characters, even when I'm not supposed to. Like, well, saying that, there are characters I don't like. However, I love the way she makes them. That's what I'm trying to say. So, Realm Breaker is just so good. I have dubbed this, myself personally, as a literary classic in the next however many years. I really think this series, if it continues the way Realm Breaker set everything up, and if it finishes really strong, which I think it probably has, because it's Victoria Aveyard, I think at some point in the next few decades, Realm Breaker and the series is going to be a literary classic like the other adventure series that we know and love. So that is a very, very big crowning moment. Realm Breaker might be up there with one of my top books of the year. It's definitely in contention. We'll see how the rest of the series goes, because we will. But I loved this book. It's like an adventure epic. So much is going on in this world in the best way possible. Like, there's politics, there's drama, there's fighting, there's war, there's different ethnicities and nationalities clashing together in different places. Like, there is just this massive scope of a world, and we're diving into a portion of it but traversing it, if you see what I mean. So it's really like an adventure. We have to go to this place and do this thing and da 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 da. Like, Realmbreaker is a realm, and I really love that. It's not like super compact into like one country or like one nation. So it was kind of a lot to get to grips with at first because you don't have a map, and I really personally love a map. It helps me set up and frame and like gauge how big places are, how small places are, how far the treks are, or like how difficult a terrain is, that kind of thing. It really helps me set up in my brain the kind of world I'm building and how I picture it. But this one does not have a map, and that's okay. It meant my imagination needed to work a little bit harder, but I did actually quite enjoy that because it meant however I picture it is how it's going, if you see what I mean. So I really love the characters and the dynamic between the characters, because we have quite a few characters and quite a few point of views we're experiencing. So this isn't a book where it's just told from one person's perspective. We're having the story told from multiple characters in their perspective, and it's been super interesting to see all sides of a story without getting too into the details in each, so that we're having bits of information taken from this person and an extra bit of information taken from there and more information here. So you're like, oh my god, when is this person going to find out what that person knows? When are they going to experience this thing that this person's doing right now? Like, all of that kind of thing. I just really, yeah, I really love this concept. From that, it makes it a really focused read. Like, you can't read this book with half your attention elsewhere. You can't be like scrolling and trying to read this book. You really have to focus when you're reading it, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think sometimes we get too caught up in like mindless reads, and we then like lose our attention span for taking on bigger books like this. So I think this is a great advocacy for focused attention, engaging books that really require you to zone in on them, and then you get so immersed that coming out of the book really feels like you're stepping out of a world. Yeah, I love that feeling. So because it felt like you were coming out of a world when you put the book down, it did take 2 or 3 pages for me to pick it back up. When I picked it back up, I mean, to get back into the pace and the flow. I do think a book like this, if you put it down and you don't come back to it for a while, you're going to ruin the pacing for yourself, because as you follow the chapters, the pace is picking up, and the pacing I think is going to carry on into the second book. So I would say you probably kind of need to read them closer together to get the full effect. Obviously books get published years apart from each other, so that might not be the case. I haven't actually read the second book yet, but I would say set aside time to read these books back to back to get the full effect of Victoria's writing. And that's what I'd also say for what I'd also say for Red Queen. So if you're wanting to explore more of Victoria's work and you haven't read Red Queen, the series yet, that series I'd say read it back to back, because the pacing of the world and the things that are happening is going to be so much more effective and so much more enjoyable, I think personally, if you read them back to back. I think Realmbreaker is just a book where you get immediately and instantly attached to the quest, to what's happening, to the adventure you're going on. You get really attached to the characters quite quickly. I think Victoria's really good at developing her characters in a way that even if you kind of love and hate them, you still want to know what's going on with them. It's not like a character where you're like, oh, snooze, like, scroll past. For me, in in the Throne of Glass series, Kale was that Kale was that character for me. He was one of my snooze, like, oh, I don't want to know what's going on with him, like, scroll past. That is my thoughts on Realmbreaker. Favorite book of the month. I really, really, really loved this. Let's keep it moving because I have been chatting for a minute. These 2 next books I'm gonna skim through because you'll understand why in a second. So the first, and technically my fastest read, but I don't really class it as my fastest read because I skim read it, and my most disappointing read of the month, Daisy Haites and The Great Undoing. Well, Daisy Haites, The Great Undoing. I'm not really sure how you say it. I'm a big hater. I'm a big hater of Daisy Haites and Daisy Haites series. Like the 2 or 3, I guess, books. No, 2 books. I'm assuming a 3rd is coming, but I don't actually know that factually. The 2 books from Daisy Haites' character and her perspective have not been highly rated by me. I think one of them was a 1.75 and the other one was like a 2.5. Unfortunately, I don't like these books. I don't really like Daisy as a character that much. I think she's quite underdeveloped. I think she's quite surface level. I don't think for someone getting their whole series, like within a series, if you know what I mean, like their own books and dedicated point of view within a series, I don't think that much actually happened for her. I don't think we saw enough of her character development or like context and things like that. Like there was bits and it was attempted, I'd say, but for having your own book and your own duology within a series, I think it was just a bit of a stretch, and I probably would have preferred books from other characters in the series in their perspective anyway. I think Julian's a bit of a dick and he's not giving me the trope that he's meant to be giving. Like, I don't want to explain it any more than that because I feel like if I do, it's going to spoil things, but the trope that he's made for, it's not giving what it's supposed to give. He's not giving me the genre and the trope that he is supposed to be giving within this series. If you know, you know, but I won't push it any further because I don't want to spoil it. Most of the time I want to fight him. That is how I feel about Julian. I prefer to fight him rather than anything else with Julian. That's probably quite controversial for a few people as well, but he's just not, he's not giving what he's supposed to give me. Don't get me started on the footnotes. I won't give these footnotes airtime because they had too much airtime in the book. I just personally don't want to be clicking 17 footnotes in one chapter, like one 7-page chapter, 17 footnotes. That's like nearly a footnote per sentence, probably is, and they are all irrelevant. Like, all provide literally nothing to the story. They're just like quippy side note, like aside, like talking to someone on the side kind of thing, that are just so irrelevant and like could have either been included within the actual story, within dialogue or whatever, or just taken out completely. Like, the footnotes boggle my brain. I finished this series up to date. I don't know if there are any more books coming from Jessa Hastings from the Magnolia Park series, but I have finished Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. I won't go too much into this one either because you'll get my full review of the Magnolia Park series, including the Daisy Haites one. Okay, apologies, my camera just died. So if I've moved a little bit, that is because of that. I was talking about Magnolia Parks, and essentially that whole review video is coming, so don't you worry, you'll have all of my thoughts. But on average, I rated this whole series a 2.5. So you kind of have a really big insight there into what I think about this series. So make sure you subscribe if you want to keep up with my thoughts on the Magnolia Park series. The video will be coming very, very shortly, and it will be very juicy for you. Final book of the month is my easiest read, Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. So this book was like so mindlessly easy. It was a book I picked up and put down, I think, once I actually started it, because I think I've been trying to read Done and Dusted for like 3 months and I haven't got past chapter like 7, which is maybe 6% of the book. So really technically I finished this book in like 4 or 5 days, I think, because I fully picked it up past, like, I think from like 11% till 77%. I think I read that in like hours, maybe 4 or 5 hours, even less actually. I'm trying to think now, how long did it actually take me to read that? But yeah, I read it like 11% to 77% in like a matter of hours, and then I finished the book I think in a couple of days. So it's really a super easy read. It's perfect for what it is. It's a easygoing cowboy romance with like a little bit of character development, a little bit of plot line. It's really just a character driven story. You're kind of just waiting to see when these two people kiss. And for what that is and what you need, perfect. It's a bit smutty. I'd say it's like a 1. one chili pepper. But really all of those things are subjective, so if you're looking for things like that, it's honestly down to you and what you rate as like X-rated versus like 3 chilies versus like 5 chilies. Like, that's really up to you and what your thoughts and processes are around that kind of stuff. So for what it was great. It won't make it high up on my ratings. I think I rated it a 3.25, but that's specifically because it's just nowhere compared to what my 4 and my 5-star reads are. So it'd be really unfair, I think, for me to rate this kind of book, which was great for what it was, but not very adventurous, I guess, with like the plotline and character developments and things like that. It was great and it was like perfect. It was a 5-star for being a cowboy romance. It was great. However, in comparison to my other books and my other rankings, it just won't be up there. So that is why I rated it 3.25 stars, but that's okay because it's not reflective of how good it is as a cowboy romance. It's just reflective of how it is in my ranking system. And finally, I wanted to update you on my reading goals for August, what I've hit, what I didn't, and going forward, what I think is going to be next. So we hit 21 books in 2024 with August included. So we're about halfway. My reading goal is just to surpass what the previous year was. So the previous year was 42 books I got to. So this year my goal is 43 books. And if I go way over 43, that's perfect. If I'm under 43, I'll be a bit sad because the last 3 years running, I've increased my book total for the year by at least 3 or 4 books. So really I'm just kind of slowly trying to add up to get towards like the 50 books in a year goal mark. If I get to more than that, it's been a great year. So that is where I am in terms of my book total. I read 5 out of the 7 books on my TBR list. So within that TBR video, 5 of them that I mentioned were actually read. There's 3 in there. Wait, 5, 6, 7, no, 2, I can't count. 2 in there that I didn't actually manage to get to, and that is, I think, A Tempest of Tea and Yours Truly I didn't manage to get to. Oh, and Caraval, but that's in my September TBR video. So we will be reading those 3 books hopefully in my September TBR, but you will get the full list in that video, so stick around for that. And the book I am most excited for in September is, I think, One Dark Window. You'll hear why in the next video. However, I think it's just going to be a really great book. It's followed very closely, because I had to pick one, like it's just followed closely, by Bladebreaker and Blood Over Brighthaven. I'm so excited to read all of those books. It's going to be a very dense fantasy month. There's going to be a few romances spread in there, some other kind of books which I don't really know the premise of like at all. I just know the titles of the books, so we'll really see. But I'm so excited for my September reads. I'm really happy with what I got done in August, and overall, other than like the Magnolia Parks saga, I'm really happy with my August reads as well. So that is the end of this video. Stick around for the Magnolia Parks update, for my September TBR video, and for some reading videos in September as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.